So today we had the Packers-Patriots joint practice. So I want to go through, give updates from exactly what happened here. Practice probably ended 30 or so minutes ago. I'm going to go through, we're going to check out tons of different beat reporters and what they saw today at Packers practice. I already shared that beautiful Jordan Love to Christian Watson touchdown in an earlier short video. Feel free to check that one out. But here we are now. It's August 16th, which means we're getting closer and closer to the NFL season. We now have gotten to see the Packers in one preseason game, and I think there are lots of positives from that game for Jordan Love, Sean Clifford, lots of other guys that we've sort of discussed on this channel. And if you guys are new here, I cover the Packers, news, analysis, rumors, all that kind of stuff. I also have a Packers newsletter, link in description, in comment section. I'll be writing something there after this video. So if you want to get some more Packers updates later today in your inbox, click the link, enter your email. So first off, we're going to start off here with some injuries. So from Andy Herman, he says this: Ennis Gaines, Eric Stokes, Caleb Jones not practicing. Don't see Carpenter with the linebackers, Tariq Carpenter either. Bakhtiari, another rest day. No Tenuta, offensive lineman, or Tyler Davis, who, of course, tore his ACL not too long ago. Looks like Tyler Goodson, and Lou Nichols still out as well. I don't see Kenny Clark with defensive line. I believe Kenny Clark has some kind of back injury. I don't think it's super serious, but he seems to have some kind of problem there. And then also here from Ryan Wood, Packers inside linebacker Devondre Campbell is not practicing today because of an ankle injury. So those are some of the injuries. And now here we have from Paul Brettel, says starting offensive line right now for the Packers. Nyman at left tackle. Of course, Bakhtiari was not practicing today. And so Nyman there at left tackle. Jenkins, left guard. Myers, center. Runyon, right guard. Zach Tom, right tackle. So there has been lots of fluctuation between this offensive line. I do think once the season comes around and Bakhtiari is ready to go and fully, participating, he'll be at left tackle, Jenkins left guard, Myers probably center. We've seen him have some issues there. The Packers have tried Zach Tom there as well, and Tom seems to be able to play every position at a very high level. But Myers sort of sticking there right now. Runyon right guard, that seems pretty solidified. Then Zach Tom right tackle. Then we have Watson and Dobbs at receiver. Musgrave and DeGuara at tight end. Of course, Tyler Davis, ACL tear, which is just very unfortunate for the Packers. And of course, the Packers drafted two young tight ends, so I think they want to get a lot of playing time this year. It's one of the reasons the Packers didn't bring back Mercedes Lewis, is because they didn't want to have a veteran like that stealing snaps from these young tight ends. And so now with Tyler Davis gone, even though the Packers did use draft capital on these young tight ends, Davis and DeGuara were two of the experienced guys in that tight end room, even though they've never really, I'd say, produced at an elite kind of level. There's still veteran players who have some experience here. So it looks like DeGuara will be getting lots of those tight end reps as well. He has more experience here than these young tight ends. And then Love at QB and Jones at running back. Now moving here to Paul Brettel once again. Says Tarvarius Moore starting at safety next to Savage. So the safety room is sort of up in the air right now, and it looks like the Packers have tried lots of different things. I saw some reports that Jonathan Owens has been taking some starting safety snaps as well. Matt LaFleur seemed to like what he saw from rookie 7th-round pick Anthony Johnson in the preseason game. Savage sort of seems to be a lock at safety, even though he hasn't performed well the past couple seasons. And I do think when you look at the Packers defense, safety is definitely the position that I'm still, if I was worried out of position, it would be the safety position, just because there's not really a proven stud at that spot. We lost Amos, and Savage is still here. Rudy Ford played pretty solid last year, but he seems to not really be getting any of these starting reps. It's Tarvarius Moore, who the Packers signed from the 49ers, and then Jonathan Owens, who came over from the Texans. The thing with Owens is he had one of the worst safety grades by PFF in the NFL. He was a pretty solid tackler, but he did miss a tackle in the preseason game the other day. Tarvarius Moore has never really been an elite safety. So there's just some question marks here. And I do wonder if a guy like Anthony Johnson, who is young, who seems to play with this intensity I sort of like to see, I wonder if he can push himself up the roster. But that's sort of a position to keep an eye on. McDuffie at linebacker with Quay, with Campbell out, Van Ness and Smith at edge. Valentine again with the starter. So I saw that Jair, I think he has some kind of foot issue. I'm not super sure about that. I need to take a look deeper into that. I don't think it's super serious, but Valentine with the starters. And I think Valentine has shown that he's a legit player here. We saw it in that preseason game. 7th round pick, absolutely balling out, which is awesome to see. Then here from Ryan Wood, Packers open in nickel defense with base front, Devontae Wyatt, TJ Slayton, Colby Wooden on the defensive line. We have Preston Smith, and Lucas Van Ness on the outside. Walker inside linebacker, Douglas, Nixon, and Valentine at corner. And then Savage and Moore there at safety. So that was sort of similar to the last tweet, but a little bit more depth there. And then also Paul Brettel, per Packers PR, Bo Melton is out with a hamstring. So Packers receiver who's fighting for one of those final wide receiver spots misses practice, which is not great for him if he's trying to get one of those final spots. Hopefully it's not too big of a deal. And here we go, Paul Brettel. Starting offense versus the Patriots. Few yard run to the right by Jones. Musgrave lead blocker. And I think we saw some nice blocks from Musgrave on Friday against the Bengals. Decent protection, but nowhere to go with the ball. Likely sacked by New England. Dillon left for 2 yards. Few yard run up the middle by Dillon. Tons of motion by the Packers, which they love to do. Then Paul Brettel, Love and starters back out. Play action, throws to Dillon and flat. Heath out there. Malik Heath out there with Watson and Reed. Jones finds running lane left. Good vision, avoids defender. Draw to Jones, few yards. Play action, nice blitz pickup by Dillon. Love finds Dobbs in the flat for 7. Then Andy Herman. Patriots find a big hole. Looked like Stevenson for a big gain. Patrick Taylor for nothing. Pat's run D looks legit. Packers bring in their secret weapon, and Magoo uncorks a gorgeous fading away throw, rolling to his left for a big gain to Tucker Kraft. So Magoo, it doesn't seem like he is going to make this roster unless the Packers were to keep 3 QBs, but I assume that they won't. We'll see if that happens. But I believe Sean Clifford has locked up his job as a starter with all the positives we saw from him on Friday night. Then Paul Brettel, Love and starters back on field. Watson beats man down left sidelines. A nice pass from Love through Watson's hands. So that's not what you want to see, but it's okay. It happens from time to time. Love hits Reed over middle. Linebacker close by. Looked like Love and Reed not on same page. Incomplete. Love steps up in pocket, finds Jones alone in the flat. So a couple issues there with the Packers, with Jordan Love and the receivers. And then Ryan Wood. Rasul Douglas with one of those savvy vet plays he's known for. Peeled off an underneath receiver to cover Pat's tight end Hunter Henry on a corner route. Douglas had a leaping interception for Mac Jones in his hands, but couldn't complete the catch, so he drops a pick. Dropped and did a few push-ups for a dropped pick. Then Ryan Wood. Mac Jones tried to test Packers rookie cornerback Carrington Valentine deep. Threw a go ball down the right side to Devontae Parker. Valentine was all over it, blanket coverage. That pass had no chance. And I think Carrington Valentine, out of every single player here in Packers training camp, has been the most impactful player. A guy who, I mean, when you see a 7th-round draft pick, you don't think they're going to come in and make some plays, some big plays this often. But Valentine is playing like he is not a 7th-round draft pick. And Matt LaFleur talked about him in his press conference and about how much, potential the Packers were to see there. And it's really amazing that the Packers were able to get him in round 7. He looks like a legit corner, so the Packers have a lot of depth there at corner now. Then here we have from Andy Herman. Looks like Love might have been sacked. Throws over the middle to Watson. Ball gets tipped away. Clifford to Heath on a slant. Clifford to Heath on a crosser for a nice pickup. Magoo incomplete. Magoo sacked. Finds Kraft on a check down, though. Royce Newman destroyed on a bull rush. Pats just missed a deep shot to Thornton. Had a couple steps on Moore. So Royce Newman has struggled a lot. He had a terrible grade against the Bengals, according to PFF. He just has really been struggling. That's an issue there for him. And then Andy Herman says Whelan is dealing, who is the punter that the Packers brought in from the XFL. I think he was like an all-pro or whatever they call it for the XFL, if it's the same thing as the NFL. But he was one of the best in the XFL. And there's a question there. Could he potentially beat out Pat O'Donnell, who is a veteran guy, a little bit older? And O'Donnell last year was one of the worst when it came to punt yard average. So a younger guy with Whelan could potentially move his way up there. I also saw from Paul Brettel. He said earlier today, he writes at Packers Wire that the Packers release Pat O'Donnell, that they'll save $1.5 million against the cap. So we'll have to watch there to see if Whelan can win that spot. Then Matt Schneidman. Jordan Love completed 7 of 10 passes during first team period against Patriots defense. Lots of short and intermediate stuff. Couple bullets complete over the middle. One perfectly lofted go ball deep left that Watson had to go through his hands. So he sort of talked about that one a little bit. But 7 of 10, not bad. That's what he was in the preseason game. And then here from Andy Herman. Carrington Valentine is doing work on special teams too, covering punts and jamming for punt returns. Dontavian Wicks with an awesome block on punt return, and he looked great in that preseason game. not only receiving but also but also blocking. Jaden Reed, the primary punt returner today, he looked so smooth catching the ball on punt returns. Packers basically did an Amari Rodgers redo, and I think they crushed it this time. So it looks like Reed could be the punt returner, with Keyshawn Nixon being the kick returner, who was elite last year. Nixon at the returning kicks. Then Ryan Wood, coaches being very vigilant, making sure no fights break out. Some talking between Packers rookie Dontavian Wicks and Patriots defensive back Jalen Mills after a punt drill. A Patriots coach walked up to Mills and made it clear to knock it out before anything escalated. So last week at the Packers joint practice, there, of course, was that fight that broke out with the Bengals. It was like Elton Jenkins and I believe DJ Reader. They sort of got into it. There was a huge scrum, but it doesn't seem like there were any fights today at this joint practice. The coach is trying to keep everything in check. Then here from Chad Graff says, a long way to go, but not a great start to joint practice for the Patriots offense against the Packers. The O-line is giving up a bunch of pressure, and there's not much open downfield. Well, that is amazing news for the Packers defense. And I really want to hope and believe that this Packers defense can be a top 10 unit in 2023. And I really do think we have the talent to do it. But I also thought the same thing last year. And we did not finish in the top 10. I think we were like 17th or so in scoring. So I'm going to wait and see what the Packers defense is going to be. I think they have the chance to be a top 10 D. We'll see if it can come to fruition. Hopefully it does. But they played well here against the Patriots offense. Then Andy Herman got some red zone-ish work coming up. Run goes nowhere. Love to Musgrave for a beautiful touchdown. Awesome throw. Leaping catch. The real good stuff, friends. So Musgrave, it seems like the Packers are going to utilize him a lot. I know that oftentimes these rookie tight ends, typically it's not till year 2 that they really, are super productive, just because tight end is a position where there's so much you have to learn and develop in. So I'm slightly cautious to say that Musgrave is going to have a huge year, but the way the Packers were using him in the preseason game, the amount of plays he's making here, he seems like he's going to be one of the big pieces on this Packers offense. And I'm curious to see if that continues and happens as this season gets started soon. Then here we have from Paul Brettel, Patriots offense in red zone. Hollins and Smith at edge, Jair at cornerback, Moore and Savage at safety. Incomplete pass. Walker closing coverage. Nice job by Walker and McDuffie to get outside, limiting ball carrier who was trying to get to edge. Good pass rush reps by Smith and Hollins. Incomplete. So that is one thing I'm watching the edge rusher group, because of course we drafted Lucas Van Ness 13 overall. But he hasn't been making, at least when you look at like the different beat reporters, his name isn't always jumping out there from these different reports. What we saw in the preseason game, he was out there a good amount of snaps, and he didn't really have any crazy plays. There were a couple where I was rewatching some of the game, and you can see the physicality that he has and that the strength he has, because he would just push guys back right away. But it seems like he still needs to develop his technique and that kind of thing to learn more moves. And I think he was a very raw prospect coming out, and the Packers knew that, and he's very young, and so it could take him time to really become efficient, but he's still, I think, a very solid draft pick, and we'll have to see what happens there. But Justin Hollins, who was on the Rams not too long ago, seems to be, have more experience. In early camp, he was starting out there, so we'll see what happens there. And hopefully Rashawn Gary will be fully ready once the season starts. Then Andy Herman, love to Dobbs for what looks like a touchdown. Another awesome throw and catch. Ruff initially signals out of bounds, but looks like he overturns it. Crowd erupts. Number 2's in now. Start with a toss to Taylor for a couple. So a nice pass there to Dobbs, which is great to see. And then here we have bootleg from Clifford from Andy Herman to Heath for a handful. Heath has been active today. He looked good in the preseason game too. Magoo sacked back to the ones. Love play action. Goes nowhere to go. Fires low to Dobbs, but was basically a throwaway. Dillon inside for about 5. Love gets the defense to jump. The hard count is fantastic. So it looks like Love picked up the hard count from Rodgers, which hopefully we'll see a lot of this season, some free plays. Then Ryan Wood, Packers starting defense, kept Patriots starting offense out of end zone on 5 reps from 10 yards and in. Jair Alexander forced an incompletion on a Mac Jones pass to Devontae Parker in the end zone. Sticky coverage, Parker couldn't come down with the football. So defense continually making plays. Then here we have Matt Schneidman. Anders Carlson makes his first 5 kicks of the day. Good from PAT 42, 44, 49, and 51. So we've talked about Carlson a lot on this channel, and he has been very inconsistent. He then missed some field goals later in the day, which we'll get to, but it was a good start at least. Then Andy Herman, ones on offense, looks like a true move the ball period. 1st and 10. Love goes deep to Dobbs on first play in between 2 defenders where only Dobbs could get it. Was so close to an amazing throw. but just ever so slightly overthrown. Don't hate the ball at all. Almost a huge play. So almost there. And then here's that dot to Christian Watson, shared by Arguable Opinions. I shared that, broke it down earlier. And then here, Andy Herman, really nice run stop by Jonathan Ford, allowed by a likely sack by Enigbare. False start Enigbare next play. Jonathan Ford with another run stop. He's made such a jump from last year. So I'm curious to see if Jonathan Ford can finish off one of those final interior defensive lineman spots, because we have Devontae Wyatt, TJ Slayton, Kenny Clark, Colby Wooding, Carl Brooks. So there's some competition there, but Ford is looking nice. Then from Wes Hodquist, strong 2 minutes for ones. Love had Dobbs completions to Dobbs and 2 to Watson. Carlson's 40-yarder is no good. So there we have Carlson missing a 40-yarder. And hopefully he can fix these issues, but clearly not great so far for Carlson, consistency-wise. Then Chad Graff. Patriots just wrapped up joint practices in Green Bay. Advantage Packers. There we go. The Patriots offense struggled to block Green Bay's front seven and had a little open downfield. New England's defense was mostly solid except for a couple big plays. So that's great if you're a Packers fan. Looks like the Packers won the practice. Defense played really well, and offense had some nice plays. Then for Matt Schneidman says, I thought Jordan Love was pretty good today. His accuracy and spiral were impressive. Again, couple chunk plays for TDs. Patriots defense made it tough for a stretch in the middle of practice, but Love for sure got his. Another sign of progress for the 24-year-old. So it wasn't perfect all practice for the Packers, but I think, to see these nice plays from Love to Watson, these kinds of things, it's definitely, a move in the right direction for this young Packers offense. But that is it for these updates. If you want to stay up to date with all things Packers, feel free to subscribe. Also, we'll be out with a newsletter about the Packers later today. So if you want to get that, link in the description, enter your email. You will receive that once I write it in the next couple hours. So thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys next time.